Hi, my name's Gareth and I make videos to help people get high scores in the IELTS test. In this video, we're going to be looking at part 2 of the IELTS speaking test. And specifically, we'll be thinking about the planning process in this part of the test. Now, you're probably aware already, in part 2, the examiner will give you a topic card. And you will have 1 minute to prepare to speak for between 1 and 2 minutes. Now, the most important thing in your planning time is really to come up with enough ideas to speak for the whole 2 minutes. If you don't have enough ideas, then you're not going to be able to speak for long enough to show the examiner all your skills in English. But as well as ideas, it's important to think about some vocabulary that you can use to impress the examiner a bit in this part. Obviously, in part 1 and part 3, you don't have as much time to think about vocabulary you can use. In part 2, you have this minute to prepare. So it's good to write down some maybe interesting or impressive vocabulary that you can use when you're talking about the topic the examiner gives you. So we're going to think about how to come up with these ideas and vocabulary for a specific topic card. The topic card we're going to be looking at is this one. Now you can see this task asks you to describe a change that you would like to see in your local area. And you have the 4 cues underneath. What the change would be, who would be involved in making the change, how it would be done, and why you would like to see the change happen. You've got to make sure that you come up with an idea for each of these cues that you get on the topic card. You need to write these ideas down. They need to be short. Sometimes I see students writing down whole sentences when they're planning for part 2. And you can't do this. You don't have time in the test to do it. And if you're really preparing yourself to use this 1 minute effectively, you don't really want to be writing down full sentences. Of course, this could be part of your preparation before the test, writing down kind of whole sentences or whole paragraphs and then practice saying them. But really, if you're trying to improve the way you plan in this 1 minute, you don't want to waste time writing full sentences. So we're going to write down key words, key phrases that explain the idea. So if you run out of ideas, you can look down at your notes and then look back up and speak fluently. Also, we want to think of some vocabulary that could fit with those ideas if we have time. The more you practice this process, maybe the more time you'll have to write down some vocabulary. But I'll show you both for this task. So, the first thing is what the change would be. So, for me, the change that I would like to see in my local area is the pedestrianization of a shopping street. So I'm going to write down those words. Just 4 words there that I need to quickly write down. So it shouldn't take too long at all. But then also I want to try and use some vocabulary that will impress the examiner a little bit, and I can make sure I'm going to try to use when I'm speaking and I'm not going to forget, so I'll write those words down too. And here maybe I can think about the problem that exists now is that the street gets clogged up with traffic, and I could write down the word clog up. This is a nice kind of less common phrase for non-native speakers, but also nice kind of idiomatic vocabulary that we can use to impress the examiner. So clog up is something I would write down. Not too long, not a whole sentence there, but of course when I'm speaking I will use it in a sentence. Also maybe the phrasal verb put up with. Now, this means that people in the local area have to kind of suffer a little bit, right? They need to kind of experience the problem of traffic. They need to put up with. Again, a nice phrasal verb that maybe will impress the examiner a little bit. So I've got there the idea and also the bit of vocabulary that I can use. And when I'm planning, in my planning time, that should not take too long to just write down very quickly. The next thing is about who can the change be done by. Now, here the idea would be the local council. Well, that's who's going to be doing it, the local government in that area. But then, of course, I need to write down a couple of words that are going to be useful in explaining this to the examiner. Now, the thing is here, maybe it's related to the people in the area as well, to make the local council do something. So maybe the word pressure might be a good word to use. The people in the local area have to put pressure on the local council. So I'll write down the keyword pressure. Also, I think a nice kind of idiomatic phrase to use here is to bring to light. Because we bring problem to light and it means to make people aware of a problem. So I'll write down the phrase bring to light. Then I'll move on to the third cue, which is how it will be done. Now, here the idea should be detailed planning. So just 2 keywords there to remind me of the idea that I have. And then a bit of vocabulary to kind of explain the planning. Maybe I'll use the word bypass, because this is about building an extra road that we would use instead of using the road that is normally for cars. We're pedestrianizing this road, which means making it for people to walk on. So we'll use the word bypass, maybe a little less common word that maybe some people would not know. But then also maybe another phrasal verb, the phrase block off, which means you have to stop people from going through the main shopping street. So block off. Then we're going to move on to the final cue, which is why this would be a good change to make. Now, maybe I think this would improve the quality of life of people in the local area. So the idea would be quality of life. So I can look down, kind of remind myself of the idea and speak clearly and explain the idea to the examiner. And again, maybe some useful vocabulary to have here is the words more pleasant, right? I can use the adjective pleasant to describe how it would be if the change would be made. And also I'm using a comparative here, more pleasant. Also, I feel like this kind of improvement would have a positive effect on the local area and businesses in that area because more people would come. So maybe the phrase knock-on effect, it would have a knock-on effect onto the other businesses in that area. Knock-on effect is a word we can use. Here we're using knock-on as an adjective and the word effect as a noun. So there we have some good ideas connected with some good vocabulary. And obviously here I've been explaining it to you, so it has taken longer than 1 minute. But it is realistic that we could write this amount of information when we're in that 1 minute in the test. And there's no way we're going to be able to have time to write down full sentences, but these key words will be useful when you're speaking in that 2 minutes. So you can look down, give yourself the idea, maybe remind yourself of that useful vocabulary that you need to use, and then speak to the examiner. There we go. I mean, that's how I would plan my answer for this task. In the next video, we'll be looking at the full answer where I'll be using these ideas and vocabulary in my answer. But that will be in next week's video. I hope this was useful for you so you can see the planning process for part 2 of the speaking test. Why don't you give it a try? See if you can plan your own answer for this task and maybe try using those notes that you made to give your full answer. And then you can have a look at my full answer in next week's video. There we go. Thanks for watching, and if you did find the video useful, then don't forget to click like, and also remember, if you haven't already, then click the subscribe button so you don't miss future videos on similar topics. There we go. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time.